What is going on, Swoopers? Welcome back to another episode of Swoop Luke. In this episode, we'll be reviewing the Collingwood Melbourne game. Let's get straight into it. So, before we get straight into it, you'll see that I've got this microphone on me like this. I really don't know how it's going to work. Whoops. Oh, God. Maybe like this. Okay. So my camera is stuffed up somehow. The SD card won't go in, so I'm recording this off my iPhone, but I'm using these wireless mics. So we'll just see how this goes. I don't know how it sounds like, but we're going to see how it goes anyway. All right. Centre myself. Let's get into this review. So Collingwood played Melbourne Monday afternoon, King's birthday, M&D or Big Freeze, Freeze M&D, number 9, Grundy's return, and I did go into this game in my preview. I said 27 points we'd win by. As the day started creeping on, I thought, okay, we might win, but it might be scrappy, and then we start playing and it was just this Collingwood side that we haven't seen in a while. Now, if you listen to certain people, they'll tell you that COVID ran rampant throughout the club this week. There was a lot of players with the flu. So, that reminds me of the last game we lost in Melbourne, which was last year, last game during the home and away season in Melbourne, which was last year against Richmond, which was the other flu game where we just pretty much looked the same. It was identical, right? But look, we're not going to blame the flu. We only lost by 4 points. Yes, Melbourne kicked 18 points. I think they kicked 6 or 7 goals, 18 or whatever it was, but they kicked 18 points. So they had their chances. We didn't. They smashed us in every facet of this game. They really deserved the win. Even McRae came out and said that if we had won, we would have stolen the game because we just didn't play good. There were passages where, even if we had the flu or not, we just weren't connecting. The mid to forward connection wasn't there. And it was just one of those games where nothing worked out for us. The ball would bounce one way when it would usually bounce the other way. It would bounce up for Melbourne. It would, you know what I mean? It was just one of those games that we were only a couple of percent off. Yes, we had some personnel missing, but we were only a couple of percent off where we would usually be. Melbourne, to their credit, really choked us. They didn't give us that run and carry game that we love. Brisbane did that earlier this season. This game was reminiscent of that, where, we would bomb it into the forward line because we just weren't working. Lever, May, Tomlinson, all these guys would just intercept mark or they just run over the top. Mychek didn't have a really good day. The only sort of fight that we showed was in the last 5 minutes, and that's a little bit too little too late. Look, I know we've won a lot of games doing that. And what did we kick? 2 goals in the last 2.5 minutes or something, and we nearly stole this game. We really, really did. But if we had stolen this game, if we had won, I think it would have glossed over a lot of the issues. And look, I know, oh Luke, it's a loss, it sucks, blah blah blah. But I like to see, and Fly's taught me this. I like to see the positives in a lot of things, right? And a positive in a loss is that we get to reload, we get to reset, we get to look at what went wrong and improve. A loss in the long run helps us improve. Now, if we were losing 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, you go, okay, the positivity has gone out the window. We shouldn't be losing this many games. What more can you expect to learn from 5 losses in a row? But this 1 loss in a row, the Brisbane, we corrected, right? This 1 loss in a row, this is how these teams will play us come finals time. They're going to sort of stop our run. They're going to want to choke us, not be that daring through the back line, and we have to find a way around it. I mentioned the mid to forward connection. We really, really, really lacked another key forward. And that key forward is Dan McStay. Will Hoskin-Elliott and Reef McGuinness were up there when Brody Mychek pushed up the ground. They tried to stay deep, especially Reef. He was really deep. Ash Johnson as well. Those three just didn't do what they needed to do. Reef, he's still a young kid, still learning. Fluffed a couple of chances, missed a mark, missed a shredder goal in the third quarter, I think it was. Will Hoskin-Elliott missed that goal from right in front where he would normally kick. You'll see on my vlog later. Actually, I don't know if I recorded when I said it, but I did turn to Dad and say, he's going to miss this because that's just the way the game has been going. He missed it because that's just the way the game had been going up until that point. So, our forward line just wasn't connecting. No Jamie Elliott either. No Jack Ginnivan. He was managed. So Reef came in really late. It just wasn't working, right? You're not going to win a premiership or a lot of finals with that makeshift forward line. But, when you look on the other side of things, Elliott comes back, McStay slots straight into that forward line. The beauty about McStay, and maybe we'll talk about him in a later video, the beauty about McStay and Brody Mychek is they're two big key forwards in the sense that they can mark, they can kick a goal. When Brody Mychek pushes up, because we know he loves to get up the ground, McStay can sit down back and we don't have to rely on a 21-year-old Reef McInnes or Will Hoskin-Elliott to be that tall. When McStay pushes up the ground, we can rely on Brody Mychek to do that things. We just were missing that connection. And it was really evident going up against May, Lever, and Tomlinson in the Melbourne backline because there's no doubt in my mind, or maybe a little bit of doubt because we're only halfway through the season, that we end up getting Melbourne in the first final, or maybe if we're lucky to get into a second final or whatever it may be, we will see them again deep into this year, and we really need to combat their backline. So personnel-wise, look, no one really super stood out to me. I think Tom Mitchell had a really good game, though. Up until half-time, he had 6 tackles. He was back to his ball magnet best. Shout out to the ball magnet pod. He was back to, that sort of gathering all those disposals and stuff like that. He did really well. Look, I haven't got stats sort of in front of me, but just going on what I sort of can remember, he did really well. Look, I think just there wasn't really one big, huge standout to me. A couple of guys had sort of bits and pieces where they were really nice. Harvey Harrison in his second game did a couple of nice things. Patrick Lipinski back, kicked 2 goals, and he's only going to get better. That's another positive. He's only going to get better. His first game since the preseason when he did his shoulder against Hawthorn, and his first proper game since I think the Sydney prelim it would have been, yeah. So that high-tempo footy, he's getting back to it. He kicked 2 goals, kicked the opening goal. Wasn't, he's running and kicking best, but again, there's only so much you can train. When it's the real thing against real opposition, it gets a little bit harder. But he is only going to get better, only going to improve. 1 game under his belt, and then, he'll go on play for the rest of the season. Look, even Pendlebury was stuffing up a little bit. If Pendles is stuffing up, you know that your game isn't on. I think Braden Maynard did really good. 500 metres gained, 25 disposals. He was probably best on ground for me. Darcy Moore, intercept possessions and intercept marks left, right, and centre. If we don't have him, and we didn't for a period because he went off with a bit of an ankle injury, came back on late, we would have got smashed by Moore. Isaac Quaynor did his best on Cozzy Pickett as well. Yeah, it just wasn't. There was bits and pieces of genuine sort of, this is good, this is a good run. We did well here, but all in all, it just wasn't a very coherent Collingwood side. I haven't seen us play that bad in a while. The Brisbane game, I guess, but it did really remind me of that Richmond game last season. And in saying that, and it's so weird because they were both sort of flu games because we kind of had the flu running through us in that Richmond game. After that Richmond press conference, Craig McRae said, "I'd rather kick 10 goals than die wondering." And just coincidentally, in the press conference that just went, he also said, "I'd rather kick 10 goals than die wondering." He said that we showed a lack of energy. We weren't doing the Collingwood brand that we know and love. We just had no Collingwood brand, and he's not going to say that it was the flu. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. We were just really off. But You know, David King today said it was a healthy loss, or the other day said it was a healthy loss. And I think it's good. You don't want to go through the whole season undefeated or whatever it may be, and only a couple of losses. I think this was a loss. We didn't need to have a loss. I don't like when people say, oh, we needed to have this loss. No, we didn't. We didn't need to have any loss. But look, it is what it is, really. I wasn't too sad or upset about the loss. Yes, we lost, and that sucks. But you kind of go, okay, but we were really down, had a lot of personnel out. We only lost by 4 points. Yes, because the Melbourne couldn't kick, but big deal. Like, what do you want me to say? Oh, but if they kicked, we could have lost by 40. Well, yeah, and if we kick straight as well, we could have won by 30. Like, big deal, you know what I mean? We only lost by 4 points. And that was pretty much Melbourne's best team except for Clayton Oliver. I think. Correct me, you'll probably correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, shout out to Jack Viney, he had a really good game. Like, you would love that sort of player in your team. But yeah, look, and we had a couple guys on one leg. We really crawled to the bye. You could kind of see in the last couple of weeks, we just weren't at our best. And all stats-wise for the last 6 weeks have been a little bit down where they should be. So, look, there's a lot of room for improvement. The loss will really help us, you know, propel into the second half of the season. The big test is going to come against Adelaide, Gold Coast in the next 2 weeks or the next couple of weeks after the bye. That's when it's going to really test us because we should have close to a full team during those games. But, look, the loss, it sucks. We're still top of the ladder. 11-2. If you told me at the start of the year, Luke, you're going to be 11-2 at the start of the season, midway through the season, 133 percentage points, and you're going to be top of the ladder. Would you do it? Yes. Hell yes, I would do it. And we've done it. We're still top of the ladder. It's fine. Equal points as Port Adelaide, and I think 3 games ahead of third place. So we've got a few games in hand. As long as we finish top 2, that's the aim right now. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. How have you seen that game? How have you seen the last couple of weeks? Again, let me know your thoughts down below. On Friday, I have got David King, analyst, expert analyst from Fox Footy, SEN, Kangaroos Premiership player. He will be on... I did an awesome podcast with him and videocast, whatever you want to call it. That'll be dropping on Friday night. It'll be on Spotify. It'll be on YouTube. And that was really fun. We talk about everything the Pies mid-season review with David King. So that is absolutely huge. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets. And until next time, double shackers. I'll swoop you later.